A hand clamped around her wrist like a vice. Crystal clear soju erupted from the bottle, premium wine reserved for VIPs, only cascading directly onto pristine white fabric. The music stopped. Every conversation died. 30 people held their breath. Because the man wearing that ruined Tom Ford suit was Min-woo Cho, the Ice Prince, a Korean mafia boss who controlled the West Coast's underground fight circuits with cold calculation. And the clumsy black waitress who'd just destroyed his $15,000 suit was about to learn what happened when you disrespected the most dangerous man in Koreatown. Except, Arya wasn't clumsy. The oversized uniform hid a fighter's physique, shoulders built from 12 years of training. The downcast eyes hid championship-level instincts. The trembling hands bore calluses that only came from hitting heavy bags 10,000 times. She was the Southpaw Shadow, an Olympic boxing prospect hiding from corrupt promoters who'd destroyed her career and put a price on her head. Min-woo gave her an ultimatum. 3 minutes in my ring, or my men take you to the alley. Your choice. He thought he was toying with a frightened victim. He was actually challenging one of the most gifted boxers of her generation. When they stepped into that underground ring, Min-woo would throw a punch meant to humiliate her. Instead, Arya's precision counterstrike would drop him to his knees, chest paralyzed, gasping for air, and in that moment, he'd realize he'd made the biggest miscalculation of his life. But before he could even process that shock, armed men would burst through the doors, automatic weapons, a coordinated hit, and Arya would have exactly 12 seconds to decide, keep her cover or unleash the fighter she'd buried 6 months ago. What she did next changed everything. She'd clear that room of trained killers using nothing but her fists. The waitress would become a weapon. The arrogant boss would become her student. And 2 people who should have been enemies would forge the most dangerous partnership Los Angeles had ever seen. The hunter was about to become the hunted. If you want to see how this ends, smash that like button and drop a comment telling me which country you're watching from. And should Arya reveal her secret or keep hiding? Let's get into Chapter 1. The Jade Lotus pulsed with controlled chaos, K-pop bass lines vibrating through velvet-draped walls, expensive cologne mixing with ambition in the air, and the particular tension that came from dangerous men pretending to be legitimate businessmen. This was Min-woo Cho's kingdom. At 28, he controlled the West Coast's underground fight circuits from this exclusive Korean nightclub in the heart of Los Angeles, and he held court like an emperor in his midnight blue Armani suit. Arya had perfected invisibility during her 2 months here. The uniform hung 3 sizes too large, drowning the sculpted shoulders that came from 12 years of Olympic-level training. She kept her natural hair wrapped and hidden, moved with an artificial awkwardness that masked a fighter's fluid grace, and cultivated a soft, apologetic demeanor that made her forgettable, just another struggling waitress in the city of broken dreams. No one here knew the truth. She was a former boxing prodigy, 1 fight away from representing Team USA before her world collapsed. Corrupt promoters had rigged her qualifying match, planted false doping evidence, and destroyed everything when she refused to throw fights for their criminal network. Now she was Arya, the nobody, hiding from powerful enemies who'd vowed to make her disappear permanently. She should have stayed invisible. More soju! Takeshi's voice cut through the music, a drunk Japanese Yakuza associate visiting from San Francisco. He slammed his glass on the table, making several VIPs flinch. Arya hurried forward, clutching the heavy bottle of premium Huayo. Yes, sir. Right away. Her voice was intentionally breathy, weak. As she began uncorking the bottle, Takeshi's hand shot out his grip, surprisingly precise, finding the exact pressure point on her wrist. Look at this one, Min-woo. He sneered, yanking her off balance with practiced control. Why do you hire such frumpy staff? The bottle tilted. Time slowed to a crawl. Crystal clear liquid arced through the air in what felt like slow-motion premium soju reserved only for VIPs, splashing directly across Min-woo Cho's pristine white Tom Ford suit jacket and silk shirt. The music didn't actually stop, but somehow every sound in the club died. Conversations ceased mid-word. 30 people held their breath. The temperature in the VIP section plummeted. Min-woo slowly, deliberately set down his phone. His movements were controlled, precise, like a coiled snake deciding whether to strike. He raised his eyes to meet Arya's. She saw nothing. No anger, no surprise. Just calculating coldness that was somehow more terrifying than rage. "Do you understand what you just ruined?" His voice was soft, each word enunciated with deadly calm. "I'm so sorry, sir." Arya reached for napkins, but Jin-ho, Minwoo's stone-faced lieutenant, intercepted her hand with painful pressure. "Don't touch the boss." Minwoo stood, his 6-foot frame towering over her. "The suit costs $15,000. The wasted soju, another 2,000. He paused, letting the numbers sink in. "At your wage, that's 3 years of working for free." Arya's throat went dry. "I'll pay it back, I promise." "Will you?" Minwoo stepped closer, invading her space, studying her with those dark, analytical eyes. He was waiting for her to cry, to beg. Everyone always did. But Arya didn't cry. She controlled her breathing in through the nose, out through the mouth, keeping her heart rate steady. The same technique she'd used before championship bouts. Minwoo noticed. His eyes narrowed. Unusual composure for a waitress. Then he moved. His right hand lashed out a quick backhand slap aimed not to injure but to humiliate, to establish dominance, to break her composure. Arya's body reacted before her brain could stop it. 12 years of training overrode conscious thought. Her head slipped left exactly 2 inches, a textbook defensive slip while her left hand came up and redirected his arm harmlessly past her face. The entire movement took less than a second. Minwoo's hand cut through empty air where her cheek had been a heartbeat before. He froze, stared at his own hand, then slowly turned his gaze back to her. The boredom had vanished from his expression. In its place was something far more dangerous, sharp, predatory interest. "You didn't flinch," he whispered, grabbing her chin and forcing her to meet his eyes. "You slipped a strike. That requires training." Arya's heart hammered. She'd just blown 6 months of careful invisibility in less than a second. Minwoo turned to Jin-ho and commanded in Korean, "Clear the room, now." As terrified patrons scrambled for the exits, Minwoo unbuttoned his ruined jacket and rolled up his sleeves, revealing forearms marked with traditional Korean dragon tattoos. "You owe me $17,000, he said, voice dropping to something cold and final. "Since you can't pay with money, we'll negotiate differently." He pointed to a reinforced steel door at the back of the VIP section. "Downstairs. My ring. Survive 3 minutes without getting knocked unconscious, and I'll forgive everything. I'll even tip you. And if I refuse?" Minwoo's smile was sharp as a blade. "Then Takeshi takes you to the alley. And Takeshi doesn't know when to stop." Arya stared at that steel door. Fighting would expose everything, her skills, her identity, the enemies hunting her. But the alternative was worse. Slowly, deliberately, she untied her apron, removed the wire-framed glasses, folded them neatly on the table. Without the disguise, her dark eyes were striking, intense, fearless. When she spoke, her voice no longer trembled. It came out flat, cold, utterly composed. 3 minutes. Minwoo smiled, but something in his gut whispered a warning he couldn't identify. He was about to step into the ring with something far more dangerous than he'd ever imagined. The basement beneath the Jade Lotus was a different world. Raw concrete, exposed pipes, harsh fluorescent lights casting unforgiving shadows across training equipment. In the center stood a professional boxing ring, its canvas bearing faint, dark stains that no amount of cleaning could erase. This was where disputes got settled when negotiations failed. Minwoo stepped through the ropes and bounced lightly on his toes. Arya's trained eye immediately assessed him. Legitimately dangerous. He moved with the fluid confidence of someone who'd spent serious time in Muay Thai and kickboxing. Not a professional, but aggressive, powerful, accustomed to dominating through superior physicality and intimidation. Jin-ho took position by the timekeeper's bell, looking increasingly nervous. Takeshi leaned against the ropes with a fresh drink, laughing. 500 says she's crying in 30 seconds. Arya stood outside the ring. With deliberate movements, she removed the outer layer of her uniform. Underneath was a simple gray sports bra and black athletic leggings. The body she revealed made Takeshi's laughter die in his throat, an athlete at peak condition. Defined arms, powerful shoulders, tight core, legs built for explosive movement. She kicked off her work shoes and stepped barefoot onto the canvas. The familiar texture beneath her feet triggered an involuntary rush of adrenaline, a drug she'd been clean from for 6 months. Terrifying. Exhilarating. The fighter was waking up. Control it, she told herself. Don't knock him out. Survive. Defend. Make it look like panic and luck. Gloves? She asked. Minwoo raised his bare fists. I want to feel it when I connect. Unless you're scared? He was trying to provoke her. Make her angry and sloppy. Arya didn't take the bait. She walked to the center and raised her hands, deliberately avoiding a proper boxing stance. Instead, she kept her palms open in what looked amateur but was actually a modified Philly shell guard designed to catch and redirect. Begin! Jinho shouted. Minwoo lunged immediately, throwing a heavy straight right aimed at her jaw. A power shot meant to end the fight instantly. Arya saw the telegraph in his shoulder before his arm even moved. Time dilated. She could have stepped inside and driven a hook into his liver that would hospitalize him. Could have swept his legs. Instead, she ducked in what looked like panic, stumbling backward clumsily. Minwoo's fist sailed over her head with enough force she felt the wind. Slippery, he grunted, following with a looping left hook. Arya backpedaled frantically, deliberately tripping over her own feet and falling against the ropes. The hook missed her face by less than an inch. I can't do this, she cried out, adding tremor to her voice while her analytical mind catalogued everything. Good power, decent speed, telegraphs his shots, overcommits weight forward, drops right hand when throwing left. Get up and stop running, Minwoo barked, clearly enjoying the chase. He cornered her against the ropes and unleashed a brutal combination left hook to the ribs, right uppercut to the solar plexus, another left hook. Arya brought her elbows tight to her sides in textbook shell defense, catching every shot on her forearms and elbows. To Minwoo, it looked like cowering. In reality, she was demonstrating defensive craft that would make a professional coach proud. One punch slipped through and grazed her cheekbone. Skin split. Warm blood trickled down her face. The sight of blood triggered something primal in Minwoo. His eyes went darker, more intense. He wound up for a massive overhand right haymaker, so telegraphed it left his entire midsection exposed for a full second. Arya's body moved on pure instinct. Years of training overrode thought. As Minwoo committed to the punch, she dropped her level, pivoting on her back foot to generate torque from her hips. Her left fist drove upward, not with maximum power, but with perfect technical precision, and sank into his solar plexus just below the sternum. Thud. The sound was sickening. Minwoo's eyes bulged. Every molecule of air exploded from his lungs in a violent whoosh. He staggered backward, clutching his chest, his face cycling from red to purple as his diaphragm went into complete spasm. Gagging, mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water, unable to breathe. Takeshi's glass shattered against the concrete floor, but Arya caught something in his expression before the shock settled, a flicker of cold calculation, gone in an instant. As if he was analyzing rather than panicking, Jinho stood frozen, hand halfway to his concealed weapon. Arya remained in the center of the ring, chest heaving, the full weight of her mistake crushing down on her. A waitress doesn't throw check hooks. A waitress doesn't know the exact location of the solar plexus. I just broke character completely. Minwoo dropped to one knee, wheezing desperately, tears streaming from oxygen deprivation. But when he looked up at her, there was no rage. There was recognition. That was professional. He gasped between attempts to breathe. Liver shovel hook. Precision. Control. He forced himself to stand despite the immense pain. Who are you? I got lucky. Don't lie to me. He walked toward her, not with aggression but with intensity, somehow more frightening. He grabbed her right hand, forcing it open. His thumb traced the thick, yellowed calluses across her knuckles. These aren't from carrying trays, he whispered. These are from throwing thousands of punches. Crash! The heavy steel door at the top of the stairs exploded open. Marcus, head of security, his voice pure panic. Boss, we have a major problem. I'm busy, Minwoo snapped, not looking away from Arya. The Jade Serpent Triad is outside 4 SUVs, heavily armed. They're demanding Takeshi. Takeshi went pale. Sober. He rushed forward, grabbing Minwoo's arm. Boss, please, they think I stole from their San Diego shipment. I didn't know they'd track me here. Minwoo turned to him with cold disgust. You brought a war to my doorstep. Crack, crack, crack. Gunfire erupted from upstairs. Semi-automatic pistols. They're breaching the main entrance. Marcus screamed into his radio. Jin-ho pulled a Glock from his waistband. Boss. Panic room. Now. Minwoo looked at Arya one final time. Back exit. Go. But Arya hesitated. She should run. This wasn't her fight. This was exactly the attention she'd spent 6 months avoiding. Then she heard boots pounding down the stairs. The door flew open. 4 men in black tactical gear burst in, carrying suppressed Heckler and Coke MP5 submachine guns, moving with military precision. Not street thugs, trained operators. The lead man, face obscured by a balaclava, swept his weapon across the space. Kill everyone. Jin-ho returned fire from behind the ring post. Muzzle flash illuminating the basement in strobing bursts. Minwoo dove behind training mats, pulling a compact pistol from his ankle holster. But Arya was caught in the open, directly in the line of fire. The lead gunman raised his MP5. The barrel centered on her chest. His finger tightened on the trigger. She saw everything with the crystalline clarity that came from 10,000 hours of reading opponents. In that moment, Arya Corvez, the waitress, ceased to exist. The fighter was reborn, and she didn't run away from the gun. She ran toward it. 14 feet separated Arya from the lead gunman. In tactical terms, that was a lifetime. But Arya exploded forward with speed that defied logic, launching herself off her back foot like a sprinter, leaving the blocks. The gunman, Chen, 15 years of military experience, adjusted his aim, expected her to dive, to flee. He did not expect a frontal assault from an unarmed woman. His brain needed a critical half-second to process this suicidal response. By the time his training caught up, she was already inside the weapon's effective range, too close for him to track properly. Arya's left hand shot up and violently slapped the MP5's barrel upward. The weapon discharged, burr RRT, sending rounds into the concrete ceiling. Pulverized dust showered them both. Simultaneously, her body pressed against his. She chambered her right arm and drove her elbow with devastating force into his exposed throat. The sound of cartilage collapsing was audible even over the gunfire's echo. Chen dropped the weapon, hands clutching his crushed windpipe, choking on his own ruined airway. Arya didn't pause. She caught the falling MP5 by its sling, spun Chen's convulsing body to face his teammates, and used him as a human shield. The other 2 Triad gunmen opened fire without hesitation. Bullets thudded into Chen's tactical vest, thunk, 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 jerking his body violently against Arya's chest as she crouched behind him. Minwoo watched from behind the training mats, feeling something he hadn't experienced in years, genuine awe, mixed with primal fear. He'd seen professional killers, watched wetwork specialists from the Russian Bratva, precision operators from South Korean intelligence, but he had never witnessed anything like this. This wasn't street fighting. This was geometry made lethal. Movement so efficient it bordered on art. Arya dropped to one knee, peering around Chen's waist. She didn't spray bullets wildly. She fired twice. Crack. Crack. 2 single shots. Surgical precision. The second gunman dropped with a perfectly centered hole in his forehead. The third gunman, realizing the catastrophe, scrambled for cover behind the boxing ring. He leveled his weapon at Jin-ho, who was pinned down, reloading. Jin-ho, move! Minwoo broke from his position, providing suppressing fire, but Arya was faster. She tossed the empty submachine gun aside and sprinted toward the ring. In one fluid motion requiring immense core strength, she vaulted over the top rope, using momentum to swing her legs outward in a scissor kick. The third gunman stood just as both of Arya's legs caught him on either side of his helmeted head, force amplified by her body weight and velocity. His neck snapped to the side. He collapsed unconscious before his weapon discharged. Silence crashed down like a physical weight, the air thick with cordite smoke and the metallic tang of blood. Takeshi sobbed in the corner. Are they dead? Are they dead? Arya stood in the center of carnage, chest heaving as adrenaline began its inevitable crash. The reality settled over her like a shroud. She'd torn away the mask. The carefully constructed invisibility gone, she turned slowly to face Minwoo. He lowered his pistol with mechanical precision, stepped over debris and bodies, eyes never leaving her. He didn't look at the 3 dead or incapacitated operators, only at the woman standing there, sports bra, leggings, hair disheveled, skin sheened with sweat, small cuts bleeding from flying concrete. When he spoke, his voice was hollow, devoid of calculated arrogance, filled with dawning, almost reverent realization. You just cleared 3 Spec Ops mercenaries in 12 seconds. Arya didn't respond. She walked to where her glasses had fallen, picked them up, put them on despite the cracked lens. A futile gesture. Desperate attempt to restore the costume. But it was far too late. We need to leave, she said, voice raspy. This was just the breach team. Cleanup crew will be here in under 2 minutes. If the triads are serious, they'll burn this building down. Minwoo snapped into tactical mode. Jinho, car, back exit, now. Jinho, staring at Arya with barely concealed fear, scrambled up the stairs. Minwoo grabbed Takeshi by his collar, hauled him up. Walk or die. Your choice. My legs, I can't. Minwoo slapped him hard. Walk or die. They moved toward the emergency exit with Arya on point. She'd scavenged a pistol and moved through corridors with professional competence, checking corners, clearing sight lines, using hand signals. Minwoo watched her work. An unfamiliar emotion stirred in his chest. Not fear anymore. Fascination. As they moved through the back hallway, he caught sight of a tattoo on her right shoulder blade, partially visible where her sports bra strap had shifted. Boxing gloves crossed beneath a laurel wreath, a champion's mark. And beneath it, partially obscured, 3 letters, USA. The memory hit him like a physical blow. 2 years ago, his cousin Minji in Seoul had sent a video clip an underground women's boxing match making waves internationally. An American southpaw with devastating technical precision, wearing a black mask to hide her identity. They called her the Shadow. She'd destroyed a former Olympic bronze medalist in 3 rounds. The clip went viral in combat sports communities. Then she vanished, after refusing to throw a championship qualifier. Rumors said she'd defied powerful people. They'd destroyed her career, put a target on her back. Recognition clicked into place. Not calculation's coldness. Not anger's heat, something he hadn't allowed himself to feel in years. Genuine connection. The clumsy waitress he'd tried to humiliate was potentially one of the most dangerous athletes in the hemisphere. And right now, she was the only thing standing between him and a body bag. They burst through the back exit into the alley. Jinho had brought the armored Mercedes S-Class. Jinho jumped into the driver's seat. Minwoo shoved Takeshi into the back, slid in after him. Arya took the passenger seat, stolen pistol in hand, checking chamber and magazine with practiced efficiency. As they screeched away, Minwoo looked back. Flames licked from the Jade Lotus's lower windows. The triads were making good on Arya's prediction. In the rearview mirror, Jinho's eyes kept flicking nervously to Arya. After 10 minutes of tense silence, he spoke in Korean, voice hushed. Boss, who is she? What is she? Minwoo responded in English so Arya would understand. His voice carried something that might have been respect. She's the reason we're still breathing. Arya turned to look at him, those intense dark eyes meeting his. And in that moment, Minwoo realized something terrifying. He didn't know if he'd just found his greatest asset, or his most dangerous enemy. The safe house wasn't a house, it was a fortress disguised as luxury. 47 floors up in a glass tower in downtown LA's financial district. Bulletproof polycarbonate windows. Kevlar-reinforced walls. The private elevator required both keycard and retinal scan. Jinho collapsed onto the leather sectional, pressing cloth against a graze wound on his arm. Takeshi stumbled to the bar, poured a triple scotch with shaking hands, his expensive suit stained with sweat and concrete dust. Minwoo paced, controlled energy, mind working through tactical scenarios and probabilities. Arya stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows, looking out at the glittering cityscape, still held the stolen pistol, lowered at her side. She looked completely out of place in the ultra-modern luxury, barefoot, workout clothes covered in grime and other people's blood, but somehow, she looked more real than anything else in the carefully designed space. Minwoo stopped pacing. "Put the gun down. You're safe here." Arya turned slowly, dark eyes skeptical. "Safe is a relative term." She paused. "You have a leak. The triads knew exactly where you were, who you were with. Someone in your inner circle sold you out." Takeshi choked on his drink, sputtering protests. Arya didn't even look at him. "Not you. You're too incompetent to arrange a hit like that. You were the bait, not the architect." Minwoo's gaze sharpened. He walked to the bar, poured water, held it out. "You talk with considerable confidence for someone who was supposed to be mute." He threw a clean towel at her. "Clean yourself up. You're bleeding." Arya caught the towel but didn't move. Instead, she set the gun carefully on a side table. "I need to go. I settled your debt. We're even." Minwoo laughed harsh, barking, devoid of humor. "You think you can just walk out? You killed 3 men in my basement. By now, LAPD is swarming the Jade Lotus. Your face is on every security camera. I erased the tapes," Arya said calmly. "Looped the security feed my first week there. Old habits." Minwoo stopped mid-stride. Stared at her, genuinely impressed despite everything. "Who are you?" "Nobody." He closed the distance between them, using his height to intimidate. But she didn't flinch, didn't step back, met his stare with that same fearless intensity. "I'm done with lies," he said. "I saw the tattoo. Boxing gloves, laurel wreath, USA." His voice dropped to barely above a whisper. "Seoul, 2 years ago. A viral video. An American southpaw, they called her. The Shadow. Technical perfection. Then she vanished after refusing to throw a fight." He paused. "Rumor says powerful people destroyed her career, put a bounty on her head." Arya's eyes widened almost imperceptibly the first crack in her armor. Minwoo pressed his advantage, voice relentless. "You're hiding in LA wearing cheap glasses and oversized uniforms, pretending to be invisible, because someone powerful wants you to disappear permanently." He leaned closer, lips nearly brushing her ear. "Is that why you buried yourself in Koreatown? Because they'd never look for an elite black athlete in my world?" Arya shoved him backward hard. He stumbled several steps. "You don't know what you're talking about." "I know exactly what I'm talking about." Minwoo regained his balance. "I have connections throughout the Pacific Rim fighting circuits. How long before someone recognizes your description? How long before whoever's hunting you gets on a plane to Los Angeles?" Arya raised the pistol again, not quite pointing at him. But the threat was clear. "Don't threaten me." Minwoo raised his hands gesture somehow both mocking and genuine. "I'm not threatening you. I'm offering you a job." Arya blinked, finger easing off the trigger guard. "What?" "The Jade Serpent Triad just broke a 5-year peace treaty. This is war. They won't stop until I'm dead or they control Koreatown." He gestured toward her. "I have soldiers. Enforcers. Muscle. But I don't have someone like you. Someone who sees violence coming. Someone who can clear a room in 12 seconds. I'm not a bodyguard," Arya cut him off sharply. "And I don't work for criminals." "You just killed 3 people," Minwoo pointed out with brutal honesty. "You're hiding from a past bloodier than my present. By legal definition, you're absolutely a criminal." He refilled the water glass, turned back to her, eyes locked with burning intensity. "Stay with me. Help me crush the triads. Protect my back until this war is over." He paused. "In return, I'll wipe your slate clean. I have people in federal law enforcement. Hackers who can scrub databases across 3 continents. I can make bounties disappear. Give you your real life back." Arya hesitated, Freedom. The ability to stop looking over her shoulder, to train, to fight, to be herself. How can I trust you? You can't, Minwoo admitted with disarming frankness. But right now, I'm your only option. Walk out that door. You're alone against the triads, LAPD, and whoever's hunting you. Stay here. You have protection. And leverage. I need your skills. That gives you power. Arya looked at the gun. Back at Minwoo, she was so tired. Tired of running, hiding, being half a person. And strangely, something about this man pulled at her. He'd seen her, truly seen her, and his first instinct was to recognize her strength. Offer partnership. She engaged the safety, placed the pistol deliberately on the glass coffee table. If you cross me, she whispered with lethal conviction, I won't just break your ribs. I'll stop your heart. Minwoo smiled. For the first time, not the cold smirk he was known for, the smile of someone who'd found a worthy opponent. I'm counting on you being that dangerous. Buzz. Takeshi's phone on the bar counter. He picked it up with trembling hands. Read the screen. Went even paler. Minwoo. Barely a whisper. Spit it out. Takeshi turned the phone around. Breaking news. Massacre at Koreatown nightclub. Multiple dead. Owner Minwoo Cho wanted for questioning. Minwoo grabbed the TV remote. The screen filled with aerial footage, the Jade Lotus engulfed in flames. Fire trucks. LAPD vehicles blocking the street. Police have identified owner Minwoo Cho as a person of interest in what they're calling a gang-related massacre, the reporter said. Sources indicate they're also looking for a woman, a waitress believed to be an accomplice. The screen cut to grainy traffic camera footage. Two figures running through an alley. The image quality was poor, pixelated, motion blurred. But Arya's face was visible for just a few frames. Minwoo turned to her, expression grim. They have your face. The hunt is officially on. Arya stared at her own image, broadcast to millions. 6 months of careful anonymity destroyed in one night. We need to move, she said, voice shifting to tactical mode. This location is too high profile. If police know, the triads know. My Malibu compound. Too obvious. They'll expect a fortress. Arya paused. My apartment. South LA. No security. No doorman. Nobody knows it exists. Minwoo looked at his ruined suit. At the blood on Arya's skin. Absurd. Insulting. Perfect. Take me to your castle, Jinho protested. Minwoo cut him off with a sharp gesture. Take Takeshi to the Riverside safe house. Wait for instructions. As Jinho and the terrified Yakuza left, Arya grabbed a spare shirt from the closet. But as she pulled it on, her phone, the burner she'd kept hidden for emergencies, buzzed once. A single text. Unknown number. We know you're alive, Shadow. We're coming. Dread flooded through her. The corrupt promoters who'd destroyed her career. They'd found her. The ride to South LA was tension wrapped in silence. They'd abandoned Minwoo's conspicuous armored Mercedes in a downtown parking structure. Arya hotwired a nondescript 2015 Honda Accord in under 45 seconds while Minwoo watched with reluctant admiration. He folded himself into the passenger seat, knees pressed uncomfortably against the dashboard. Looked like an exotic animal trapped in a cage built for house cats. They parked 3 blocks from a weathered apartment complex in a neighborhood where Korean Mafia bosses definitely didn't venture. Cracked stucco, chain-link fences around sparse grass. The air smelled of exhaust and Popeye's chicken on the corner. Minwoo stared at the graffitied entrance. You're serious? 4 exits, Arya said, killing the engine. Thin walls, I can hear movement from adjacent units. Neighbors who learned long ago not to call police. She paused. Tactically sound. Even if it lacks luxury, they climbed to the 3rd floor via an external stairwell that creaked ominously. The apartment was a studio barely larger than Minwoo's walk-in closet. Single mattress on the floor, made with military precision. Folding table with laptop and burner phones. No pictures. No plants. Nothing permanent. The refrigerator held only water and protein shakes. This was the home of someone who could disappear in 5 minutes. Minwoo walked to the window. peered through blinds. If the triads find us here, we're trapped. Fatal funnel, limited escape routes. Arya pulled a first aid kit from a hollowed-out section beneath the bathroom sink. They won't find us unless someone tells them. She cast a meaningful glance toward where Takeshi had been. She set the trauma bag because it was clearly military grade, not civilian on the folding table. Remove your shirt. Minwoo raised an eyebrow. Buy me dinner first. You took a body shot that dropped you to your knees. You hit the floor hard during the firefight. I need to check for internal bleeding and rib fractures. Her tone left no room for argument. Minwoo unbuttoned his ruined shirt. Let it fall. His torso was a map of violence. Old scars from knife wounds. A distinctive circular scar from a bullet that somehow missed vital organs. Faint white lines from what might have been wire or restraints. But currently, a massive purple-black bruise bloomed across his ribs where Arya had driven her fist. She put on latex gloves, began palpating the area with clinical efficiency. Cool, firm fingers pressing methodically. When she pressed his lower ribs, Minwoo hissed. Nothing broken, she said matter-of-factly. But you'll feel it for 2 weeks. Diaphragm spasm. Significant bruising. Minwoo looked down at her as she worked, close enough to smell cocoa butter beneath cordite and sweat, close enough to see concentration in her dark eyes. Without the baggy uniform and the act, she was striking. Not conventionally beautiful, but powerful. Real. Magnetic. Why did you pull the punch? His voice rougher than intended. If you'd thrown it at full power? Arya's hands paused. She resumed applying cooling gel. Full hip rotation and proper weight transfer? I would have ruptured your liver. Emergency surgery. You might have died. Minwoo caught her wrist gently. Stopped her movement. The air suddenly charged with electricity. Why didn't you? Why not kill me when I humiliated you? Forced you into that ring? Arya looked up, dark eyes locking with his. Yes, you treated me like garbage. You were arrogant, cruel. She paused. But when the shooting started, your first instinct was to warn me, tell me to get down. I've spent years around men who'd use a woman as a human shield without hesitation. You tried to be the shield for me instead. She pulled her hand away gently. Continued bandaging a cut on his shoulder. Minwoo fell silent, processing. Watched her move around the tiny apartment with economical precision checking locks, wedging a chair under the door, turning off lights so they wouldn't cast shadows. He was seeing the real woman beneath all the layers of survival and trauma, and he wanted to know everything. Who taught you to fight like that? Quieter now. Where did you learn close quarters combat? Arya sat on the mattress edge, cleaning the stolen pistol from muscle memory. My father, Marine, stationed at Camp Pendleton. She paused. He wanted a son to train, to mold into a warrior. He got a daughter instead. So he decided to build the son he wanted out of the daughter he had. Boxing gyms since I was 6. National tournaments by 16. Olympic team scouts by 20. Is he still alive? Arya's voice went completely flat. No. Long pause. I killed him. The admission hung in the air like smoke. Minwoo didn't flinch. In his world, patricide wasn't automatically sin. Sometimes survival. Sometimes justice. Was it justified? Arya looked at him directly, eyes holding pain and defiance in equal measure. It was survival. He didn't just train me, he sold me. When I was 16, winning championships, he made a deal with underground fight promoters connected to organized crime. They'd groom me, control my career, use me as their asset. She paused. When I was 22, I realized they were steering me toward fixed fights, exploitation. I tried to leave. He beat me unconscious, locked me in our garage. Another pause. That night, when I woke up, I made a choice. I freed myself, and he died trying to stop me. Minwoo moved across the small space, sat beside her on the narrow mattress, proximity intoxicating. He could feel heat radiating from her skin. He reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away, and touched a stray lock that had escaped her head wrap. You're not a waitress, he whispered. Not a victim. You're a survivor. A warrior. A queen in exile who was forced underground. Arya felt a shiver trace down her spine. She'd denied herself human connection so long, convinced being known meant being destroyed. She leaned into his touch. Just for a moment, allowing herself the dangerous luxury of contact. "We have one bed," she said, voice taking on practical tone to break the intensity. Minwoo surprised himself. "I'll take the floor." "Don't be stupid. You're injured. We both need rest." She lay down, back against the wall. Pistol under pillow. Back to back. "Anyone comes through that door, we both wake up fighting." Minwoo lay beside her, their backs pressed together, mattress narrow enough that contact was unavoidable. He felt her body's warmth, steady rhythm of breathing, occasional tension at sounds outside. For the first time in years, perhaps his entire adult life, Minwoo Cho didn't feel the need to sleep with one eye open. He had a trained fighter guarding his back. And somehow, impossibly, he trusted her more than he'd ever trusted his own blood. Hours later, Arya's burner phone buzzed. She was awake instantly, hand already on the pistol. The screen glowed in the darkness. A message, same unknown number from earlier. "Riverside safe house location acquired. Your friend Jin Ho is with our asset. How long before he discovers the truth, Shadow?" Attached. A photo. Jin Ho sleeping on a couch in an unfamiliar room. Taken from inside, from close range. The timestamp read 3:42 a.m. 7 minutes ago, and visible in the corner of the frame, partially shadowed but unmistakable, Takeshi, awake, alert, holding the phone camera, eyes cold, calculating, utterly sober. No trace of the drunk buffoon. Another message appeared. He trusts the asset, sleeps peacefully. But when dawn comes, one of them will die. Will you warn him? Or will you prioritize your own survival? Choose quickly, Shadow. The sun rises in 3 hours. Fear spiked sharp and immediate through Arya's chest. The drunk Yakuza wasn't a victim. He was Jade's serpent triad, and he was alone with Jin Ho right now. Dawn broke over South LA in shades of gray and amber, light filtering through bent blinds to paint stripes across the sparse room. Arya was awake before sunrise, internal clock permanently set to vigilance. She slid carefully from under Minwoo's arm, which had draped over her waist during the night. Not in possession, like someone holding a lifeline in dark water. She moved silently to the folding table. Laptop, burner phones in neat rows. Takeshi was still alive. Still a liability. During their escape, she'd cloned his SIM card, a small device she kept for exactly this purpose. Old habit from running. Staying 3 steps ahead, she opened the laptop. Pulled up cellular intercept logs. Panic gripped her. 3 outgoing messages, sent at 3:47 a.m. Recipient, unknown number, Hong Kong country code. Message 1. Ice Prince alive. Hiding in South LA. Message 2. Black woman is the fighter. Elite level. Extremely dangerous. Message 3. Bring heavy crew. They're vulnerable now. Arya didn't yell. Didn't curse. The cold, operational calm descended like a familiar coat. She walked to where the burner phone she'd given Takeshi sat charging. Scrolled through, sent messages. Confirmed everything. Then walked to where Minwoo slept. Shook him awake. Not gently. Minwoo's hand reached for a weapon that wasn't there. He saw Arya's expression. Understood immediately. Catastrophic. She handed him the laptop without a word. Minwoo read. His face transformed from sleep softness to carved ice in 3 heartbeats. Takeshi. Deadly quiet. Arya nodded. Minwoo's hands tightened until the plastic creaked. Where is he now? Riverside safe house. With Jin Ho. Minwoo pulled out his phone. Called. 4 rings. Jin Ho answered, tense. Everything secure? Yes, but Takeshi's acting strange. Asking questions. Trying to make calls I've intercepted. Restrain him. Immediately. Wait for instructions. Minwoo ended the call. Started to apologize. Arya cut him off. I don't want apologies. I want action. The triads know our location. My identity. They're organizing an assault team. We have maybe 3 hours. Relocate? Arya shook her head. Running leaves us exposed. We turn this into an ambush. She pulled out a burner phone. Began typing. Minwoo read over her shoulder. Ice Prince dead. Black woman injured and contained. Come to address. Arya's apartment. Back door unlocked. Easy target. Make them think the fight's over, Arya explained. They'll come confident instead of overwhelming. Confidence makes people sloppy. Minwoo looked at her with something approaching awe. Military intelligence career? Got the pitch once. Declined. She smiled without humor. Don't like being owned. 90 minutes of preparation. Arya showed Minwoo improvised defensive positions. Furniture as cover. Fields of fire. Weapons cached in hidden places, pistol under the bathroom sink, knife behind the refrigerator, pepper spray under the table. She taught him tactical breathing, stress management. Most people lose fights because they panic, not skill deficiency. Minwoo listened with dedicated focus, the power dynamic shifting. In this arena combat preparation, she was absolute authority. He accepted completely. At 8:23 a.m., the tripwire triggered. Fishing line. Empty cans in the stairwell. Someone coming up. Arya signaled with a hand gesture. They took positions. Arya behind the overturned mattress. Minwoo behind the kitchen counter. They waited. Crash! The door exploded inward. Battering ram. Splintered wood and frame. 2 men in tactical gear rushed through. Weapons raised. Expecting corpses. Helpless victims. Instead, Arya sighting down her pistol barrel. Competition-level precision. Crack. First shot lead man's exposed throat above tactical vest. Down. Gurgling. Crack. Second shot second man's knee. Patella shattered. Down. Screaming. Minwoo fired from his position. Less precise. Effective suppression. From the hallway. BRRRT automatic weapons. This was just the entry team. Bullets chewed through drywall. Choking dust. Cordite smell. Arya pulled a smoke grenade, surplus military equipment. Pulled the pin, tossed into hallway. Thick white smoke billowed instantly. She grabbed Minwoo's arm, pulled him toward the bathroom, kicked out the frosted window overlooking the alley. Out and up. Fire escape. 1 floor above. Minwoo looked at the gap. 6 feet. Jump or die. 30 seconds before they grenade this room. No argument. He climbed through. Balanced on the narrow ledge. Jumped. Hands caught the bottom rung. Hauled himself up. Arya followed. More fluid. Behind them, boom, flashbang. Then heavier explosion. Fragmentation grenade. They scrambled toward the roof. Gunfire raked the fire escape behind them. They sprinted across the rooftop. Broken glass crunching. Arya pointed to the adjacent building. 6-foot gap. 3-story drop to dumpsters below. No choice. She ran full speed. Launched herself. Athletic training carrying her across. Landed in a roll. Minwoo ran toward the edge. Jumped. His arc lower than Arya's. He hit the opposite roof chest first. Hands scrabbling. Arya dove forward. Grabbed his wrists. Used her body weight as anchor. Hauled him up. The rooftop access door burst open. 4 triad gunmen poured out, but they'd miscalculated. 6-foot gap between them. No running start. First gunman tried anyway. Made it across. Landed poorly. Ankle snapped audibly. Arya delivered a precise temple kick. Unconscious instantly. The remaining 3 opened fire from the opposite roof. Distance and angle made accuracy impossible. Minwoo and Arya used the gap as natural barrier. Retreated to the opposite stairwell, 3 blocks away, breathing hard, covered in sweat and dust. Arya checked her remaining magazine. 3 rounds left. She'd need to rearm soon. Minwoo's phone buzzed. Jinho, he answered. Jinho's voice tight, barely controlled panic. Boss! Takeshi tried to run. I restrained him. During the struggle, his phone buzzed. I read the message. Target eliminated. Team returning. Secure new orders. He's been communicating with the triads the entire time. His chest tightened with realization. When I confronted him, he laughed. Said he's not working for Jade Serpent Triad. He is Jade Serpent Triad. Embedded operative. Planted in the Yakuza months ago to get close to you. The drunk act? Fake. The accidental provocation that made Arya spill the drink? Deliberately orchestrated. Everything was planned. Boss, what do I... Crack, crack, crack. Gunfire over the phone. Screaming. Nothing. The call went dead. Minwoo tried calling back. No answer. He looked at Arya. For the first time, genuine fear in his eyes. Jinho's dead. The safe house was compromised. Takeshi's message about our death was the signal to eliminate loose ends. Everything he'd built systematically destroyed. He had nothing left except the woman beside him. Arya stepped close, took his face in her hands, forced him to look at her. We grieve Jinho later. Not now. Now we survive. Now we get smart. Stop reacting, start planning. She pulled him into an alley. We disappear completely. No phones, no credit cards, nothing traceable. I know a place, from my old life, where the triads would never think to look. Minwoo's voice was hollow. Where? Arya's eyes held something dangerous, something that promised violence and redemption in equal measure. A place where I learned to be a weapon, where someone owes me a debt they can never repay. She paused. We're going to see Iron Eddie. And when we're done there, we're not running anymore. What are we doing? Arya's smile was sharp as a blade. We're going hunting. Iron Eddie's gym didn't appear on any map of Los Angeles. Tucked beneath elevated metro tracks in Watts, a neighborhood most avoided, all criminals respected as neutral territory. Converted warehouse. Boarded windows. Steel door covered in layers of graffiti and rust. Only people who knew the code could enter. Arya knocked 3 times. Paused. Twice. Paused. Once. The door opened. A man who looked carved from obsidian and violence. Eddie, 6'5", close to 300 pounds, dark skin marked with scars from a boxing career that ended in the 1980s, eyes that had seen everything. Impressed by nothing, he looked at Arya. Then, at Minwoo, bloody, exhausted, wearing the remains of an expensive suit. His expression didn't change. Shadow. Voice a bass rumble from somewhere deep in his chest. You brought a stray. Arya met his gaze steadily. I brought a partner, Eddie considered. Stepped aside. The interior was everything Minwoo expected and nothing he expected. Vast open space, heavy bags, speed bags, full-size boxing ring, canvas stained from decades of blood and sweat. Walls covered with photographs, fighters famous and unknown, all displaying the same warrior's pride. This was a temple to the sweet science. You can stay, Eddie said, voice non-negotiable. But there are rules. No drugs, no guns in the gym, and if you're here, you train. Sitting around feeling sorry for yourselves isn't allowed in my house. For 2 weeks, the gym became their entire universe. Minwoo was stripped of everything that had defined him. Luxury, soldiers, his reputation. He had to rebuild from absolute zero. Arya was his architect. The power dynamic inverted completely. Inside those ropes, she was undisputed authority. He was humbled student. First day, she told him to show her what he had. Minwoo climbed into the ring, demonstrated his fighting style, aggressive Muay Thai-influenced kickboxing. Powerful. Intimidating. Arya circled, not even raising her hands, just observing. You fight with ego, she said, voice clinical. You rely on physical advantages, size, strength, aggression. But what happens when you face someone faster, smarter, someone who doesn't flinch? She stepped in, moving at 30% speed, threw a jab at his face. Minwoo tried to block. Her fist slipped around his guard, tapped his forehead. Reset. Same punch. He tried to slip. She adjusted mid-flight, tapped his nose, 15 times, each showing a different defensive technique. The pull, the shoulder roll, the slip to the outside. By the end, Minwoo was breathing hard. She hadn't broken a sweat. Anger makes you predictable. Predictable makes you dead. She paused. I'm going to teach you to be water. Flow. Adapt. Find the path of least resistance. The training was brutal. Week 1 ended with Minwoo barely able to lift his arms. His knuckles were raw despite the wraps. His pride was in worse shape. But by day 8, something clicked. A jab cross-hook combination that actually worked. Arya nodded, the first approval she'd given. Again, she said. But this time, don't telegraph the hook. He threw it again. Cleaner. Faster. Again. And again. And again. Until the combination became conversation, his body speaking a language it had never known. Arya rebuilt his foundation from scratch. Footwork, how to pivot on the balls of his feet, create angles, control distance, head movement, subtle weight shifts, making punches miss by millimeters. Economy of motion, maximum power with minimum telegraphing. But more than anything, she taught him patience. Second week. After Minwoo successfully executed a slip counter combination for the first time, Arya called a break. They sat on the ring's edge, both drenched in sweat. Why are you doing this? Minwoo asked. Why invest so much in teaching someone who humiliated you, forced you to fight? Arya was quiet for a long moment. When I was training for the Olympics, I had a coach, old Cuban man named Alejandro. She paused. He told me something important. A fighter who only fights for themselves will eventually lose to someone hungrier. But a fighter who fights for something bigger becomes unstoppable. She looked at him directly. I lost my way when my father tried to own my career. When promoters tried to corrupt it, I was fighting to escape rather than fighting toward something. Another pause. Teaching you. Rebuilding you into something better that gives me purpose again. Minwoo reached out, cupped her face with a hand trembling from exhaustion and something deeper. Help me take back the city, he said, voice raw. And I promise when we do, you'll never have to hide again. We'll build a kingdom where you can walk in the light, where you finally stop running. Arya searched his eyes for deception, calculation, found only resolve. And something that might have been love. She whispered, okay. Leaned forward to kiss him, not desperate collision, but something slower, deeper. A promise being sealed. When they broke apart, Eddie's voice boomed from across the gym. Save the romance for after you've survived. Get back to work. Over the following days, training evolved into something almost spiritual. They sparred for hours, not trying to hurt each other, pushing each other to be better. Minwoo began understanding the beautiful economy of boxing. How 3 inches of movement could make a punch miss entirely. How a well-timed counter could end a fight. How defense was just as important as offense. He was learning to read opponents. Think 3 moves ahead. Be strategic rather than just aggressive. Arya watched him transform. Felt pride she'd never expected. Late one night, they sat with Eddie in his small office above the gym. Blueprints and satellite images of the Jade Lotus spread across the desk. Eddie had used his contacts to gather intelligence. Jade Serpent Triad took over the club completely, Eddie said, hosting a victory celebration Saturday night. The Triad's supreme leader, Zhang Wei, flying in from Hong Kong specifically. Display of power. At least 50 armed guards. Multiple security checkpoints. Minwoo studied the security layout. It's a fortress. We can't shoot our way in. Arya smiled. Terrifying expression that promised violence and brilliance in equal measure. We don't need to fight 50 men. We need to fight the right man. She leaned forward. The Triads are superstitious, hierarchical. Zhang Wei controls everything. If the ghost they believe is dead walks through the front door, the psychological shock will freeze them. For how long? Maybe 5 seconds. Minwoo looked at her. What can we accomplish in 5 seconds? Arya's smile widened. With proper preparation, we can decapitate the snake. Eddie pulled out another document. Security roster, guard rotations, emergency exits. Then he slid across one final photograph. Zhang Wei standing in the Jade Lotus's VIP section, surrounded by at least 20 armed guards, But what made Minwoo's jaw clench wasn't the guards. It was the man standing directly behind Jiang Wei. Close, trusted position, Takeshi. Alive. Smiling. Wearing jade serpent colors. That's not all, Eddie said quietly. My source says Zhang Wei's planning something for Saturday. Something big. A statement. He paused. Public execution. Live streamed. He's going to execute someone who betrayed the triads. Eddie slid across one more photo. A hostage. Bound. Bloodied. Barely recognizable. But Arya recognized him immediately. It was one of Minwoo's crew. A young kid named Daejung who'd worked security at the Jade Lotus. Barely 22 years old. Minwoo's jaw clenched. They're going to kill him. Make an example. Saturday night, Eddie confirmed. During the celebration, Jiang Wei wants the world to see what happens when you cross the triads. Arya looked at Minwoo. Saw the rage building. We have 3 days, she said quietly. 3 days to turn you into something Jiang Wei has never faced before. And if we fail? Arya's eyes were hard as diamonds. Then we die, taking as many of them with us as we can. But Minwoo saw something else in her expression. Something that terrified and thrilled him in equal measure. She wasn't planning to fail. She was planning a massacre. Saturday night at the Jade Lotus was ostentatious excess. Jade, green, and gold banners hung from the ceiling. Bottle service featured $10,000 champagne. The DJ played trap music over thunderous bass that made crystal glasses vibrate. In the VIP section, once Minwoo's domain, Jiang Wei held court like an emperor. Thin man, 60s, expensive suit, jade rings on every finger, face unnaturally smooth from plastic surgery. Cold, calculating eyes behind designer glasses. He raised a glass of baijiu, delivered a toast in Cantonese his lieutenants translated. To Minwoo Cho, may his ashes fertilize better gardens. The room erupted in laughter. Applause. Then the lights went out. Complete darkness. Screams of confusion rippled through the crowd. In the chaos, 2 figures slipped through the kitchen entrance Arya had scouted days earlier. 10 seconds later, emergency lighting kicked in. Eerie red illumination bathed the space. Everything looked like a nightmare. Standing in the center of the dance floor, Minwoo Cho. He looked reborn, clean-shaven, revealing sharp facial architecture. Simple black suit, not designer. Perfectly fitted. Hair styled back. Posture different. No longer aggressive dominance. Now, the centered balance of a trained fighter. He looked untouchable. Immortal. Beside him, Arya. Every trace of the Waitress disguise shed. Natural hair in tight braids pulled back. Black tactical pants. Fitted black tank top displaying powerful shoulders and arms. Dark skin absorbing the red light. In her right hand, suppressed pistol. Held with casual competence. The club frozen in complete silence. Jiang Wei slowly stood. Face cycling through confusion to disbelief to something approaching fear. You're dead. Minwoo's voice carried across the silent room with quiet authority. Yes, I was dead, but death didn't suit me, so I came back. He paused. And you're sitting in my chair. Jiang Wei's shock transformed into rage. Kill them both! Burn them! Make them disappear! 4 guards near the VIP booth drew weapons. Arya was faster than thought. She kicked a heavy table onto its side, one powerful strike, creating instant cover. Thick wood and metal would stop small arms fire temporarily. Minwoo didn't cower behind the barrier. He vaulted over with athletic grace Arya had drilled into him. Speed and purpose he'd never possessed before. The lead bodyguard, massive Korean man built like a refrigerator, swung a haymaker meant to decapitate. Minwoo slipped the punch with minimal head movement left, exactly as Arya taught. As the big man's momentum carried him forward, off balance, Minwoo pivoted on his back foot, generated power from hips, drove his fist in a perfect shovel hook into the man's liver. The bodyguard's eyes bulged. Mouth opened in silent scream, collapsed like a demolished building. Arya was a whirlwind beside him, moving through remaining guards with surgeon's precision and hurricane's violence. Champagne bottle deflecting a knife strike, then driven into that guard's temple. caught another's wrist, hyperextended his elbow with brutal joint lock, used his own gun against him. She wasn't fighting. She was dancing, every movement flowing into the next with deadly grace. 45 seconds. All 4 guards down, groaning or unconscious. VIP guests cowered against walls. Minwoo and Arya stood side by side, barely breathing hard, perfectly synchronized. Minwoo walked toward the VIP booth, Zhang Wei scrambling for a weapon. Minwoo reached him first, grabbed his wrist as the older man fumbled with a gold-plated pistol, twisted until bones cracked distinctly. Zhang Wei screamed. Minwoo slammed the triad leader's face onto the table with controlled force, hard enough to hurt, humiliate, not hard enough to render unconscious. He wanted Zhang Wei aware for every second. Minwoo leaned close, spoke in perfect Mandarin. "You broke the peace, killed my friend Jin Ho, tried to hunt us like animals, burned down my city." Zhang Wei, blood running from his nose, whimpered. Offered everything. Money, territory, his life. Minwoo looked at Arya. She gave a single nod. "You won't have the mercy of death," Minwoo said. "Too easy. Too quick." Arya pulled out her phone. Showed Zhang Wei the screen. "I uploaded everything to the FBI's anonymous tip server 30 minutes ago. Your private ledgers, human trafficking operations, drug routes through the port of Los Angeles, evidence of corruption involving local officials." She paused. "Federal warrants are probably being typed right now." Zhang Wei's eyes widened. Realization dawning. His empire wasn't being conquered by a rival. It was being destroyed by the law. "You'll spend the rest of your life in a supermax facility," Minwoo said quietly. "For a man like you, that's worse than any bullet." Sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder. Arya and Minwoo walked toward the exit. The crowd parted like the Red Sea. No one tried to stop them. They'd just witnessed something beyond gang warfare, the resurrection of a king, the revelation of a queen. As they reached the door, Minwoo paused, looked back at his reclaimed kingdom. Then Arya's phone buzzed. She looked at the screen. Her stomach dropped. "What?" Minwoo asked. Arya turned the phone so he could see. A video message. Unknown sender. She pressed play. The screen filled with a dimly lit room. Concrete walls. Industrial setting, and tied to a chair in the center. Arya's breath caught in her throat. A woman. Mid-50s. Dark skin. Same fierce eyes as Arya. Beaten. Bloodied. But alive. "That's impossible," Arya whispered. "She's dead. I watched her die." The camera panned to reveal the person holding it, a man in an expensive suit, silver hair, cold smile. He spoke directly to the camera. American accent. Cultured. Educated. "Hello, Shadow. It's been a long time. Your mother sends her regards." The video cut to black, but not before one final image. Text overlay. "You took something from us. Now we're taking everything from you. The Olympus Syndicate never forgets." Minwoo stared at Arya. "Your mother's alive?" Arya's hand trembled. "I don't," I thought. The phone buzzed again. New message. "Midnight. Port of Los Angeles. Pier 47. Come alone, or she dies." "And Shadow? We know what you did to your father. We have proof. The FBI would be very interested. You have 1 hour to decide. Save your mother, or spend the rest of your life in prison for patricide." Arya looked at Minwoo, eyes filled with fear and rage in equal measure. They'd won the battle against the triads, but the real war, the one she'd been running from for 6 years, had just found her, and it wanted blood. Pier 47 stretched into darkness, container cranes looming like mechanical giants against the midnight sky. The port of Los Angeles was a maze of shipping containers stacked 5 stories high, creating corridors of steel that turned every footstep into an echoing threat. Arya walked alone down the center of the pier, exactly as instructed. The text had been clear. "Come alone, or she dies." Her phone buzzed. New message. "Container 47B. East side. You have 2 minutes." She found the container. Rusted orange metal, doors slightly ajar, portable lights spilling from inside. This was a trap, obviously, but her mother was in there. Arya pushed the door open. The interior was lit by harsh halogen work lamps. In the center, her mother, bound to a metal chair. Margaret Corvez, 56 years old. Face bruised, split lip, but eyes fierce. The same eyes Arya saw in the mirror every morning. "Mom, it's a trap, baby. Run." A man stepped from the shadows behind the stacked pallets. Silver hair. Expensive charcoal suit that probably cost more than Arya's entire year of hiding. Cold smile that didn't reach his eyes. Marcus Aldrich, the architect of her destroyed career. The man who'd turned her father's greed into her prison. "Hello, Shadow." His voice was cultured, educated, like a university professor discussing theory. "You've grown since I last saw you. What were you, 22? One fight from Olympic glory. Then you had to develop a conscience." 3 more men emerged from behind containers on either side, armed with tactical rifles. Professional stance. Former military, probably. Arya kept her hands visible. "Empty. You said you'd let her go." "I lied." Marcus pulled out his phone with casual elegance. Showed her a video file. Security footage grainy, night vision green. A garage. A young woman, Arya, 6 years younger, fighting a larger man. Her father. The moment she broke free, the moment he fell, the moment everything changed. "This is footage from your father's garage. The night you killed him. Very compelling evidence. The FBI would be fascinated by a patricide case with such clear documentation." Arya's jaw tightened. "What do you want?" "Everything you took from us." Marcus circled her slowly, like a shark. "You refused to throw that Olympic qualifier. Cost us $42 million in betting revenue across 3 continents. Then you disappeared, taking our 12-year investment with you." He stopped directly in front of her. "So here's the arrangement. You fight for us again. Fixed fights. Underground circuits. For the next 5 years. Or your mother dies right now, and you spend the rest of your life in federal prison for murder." Arya looked at her mother. At Marcus. At the 3 armed men positioned in a perfect triangle. She'd learned something these past months with Minwoo, in Iron Eddie's gym. In every fight since that night, she'd stopped being invisible. She'd learned that sometimes you don't calculate. Sometimes you just fight. "Counteroffer," Arya said quietly, her voice dropping to the lethal calm she'd used in the Jade Lotus basement. "I break every bone in your body, save my mother, and burn your entire operation to the ground." Marcus laughed, genuine amusement. "You're unarmed, outnumbered 4-1, outgunned. My men are former Delta Force operators." Arya smiled. "Sharp. Dangerous. Yeah, that's what the Jade Serpent Triad thought too." She raised her left hand and snapped her fingers twice. The lights went out. Eddie had cut the power exactly on cue. In the pitch darkness of the sealed container, Arya moved. She'd memorized the layout in those 3 seconds when the door opened. Container dimensions: 40 feet by 8 feet. Her mother. Center, 12 feet in. Marcus. 8 feet, 10 o'clock position. Guard 1, left corner, 6 feet. Guard 2, right corner, 6 feet. Guard 3, behind Marcus, 15 feet. She went for Guard 2 first. In the darkness, she heard his tactical light clicking on, but she was already moving, staying below his sight line. Her fist drove into his throat before the light beam found her. The rifle clattered. His tactical light rolled across the floor, creating chaotic shadows. Gunfire erupted, muzzle flashes illuminating frozen moments. Guard 1 firing where she'd been, Marcus scrambling toward the exit, Guard 3 moving to protect Marcus. Arya used the light from the muzzle flashes to navigate. She grabbed the fallen tactical light, threw it toward the far corner. Guard 1 tracked the movement, fired. She was already behind him. Rear naked choke. 7 seconds. He dropped. Guard 3 finally got his light on her. Rifle raising. Crack, crack, crack. But the shots didn't come from inside the container. They came from outside. The container door exploded inward. Minwoo, silhouetted against dock lights, Eddie beside him. what remained of Minwoo's crew fanning out. Guard 3 spun to face the new threat. Arya's kick caught him in the temple. He dropped like a stone. The emergency lights kicked on. Marcus was making for the far exit, a small maintenance door Arya hadn't noticed. She sprinted after him. He burst through into another corridor of containers. Ran. But Arya had trained 12 years for Olympic sprinting speeds. She caught him in 15 feet. Tackled him to the asphalt. Rolled him onto his back. Her fist raised. Arya! Her mother's voice. She looked back. Margaret. Still bound, but eyes locked on her daughter. Not with fear. With something else. Trust. You're not him, Margaret said quietly. You're not your father. You don't have to become what they made you. Arya looked down at Marcus. His nose was broken from the tackle. Blood ran from his mouth. Fear in his eyes for the first time. She could kill him. God knows he deserved it. God knows he'd destroyed enough lives. But her mother was right. She wasn't her father. Arya grabbed Marcus by his expensive collar, dragged him back to the container. Minwoo was cutting Margaret free. Eddie was securing the 3 guards with zip ties. The evidence, Arya said, voice flat. Where is it? Cloud server, Marcus gasped. Encrypted. You'll never... Eddie held up a phone. Already got his unlock code. Gave it up real quick when I asked nicely. Delete everything, Arya said. Eddie's massive fingers moved across the screen. Done. Server wiped. Backup wiped. Physical drive. He snapped Marcus's phone in half. Destroyed. Arya looked at Marcus. You have 2 choices. Disappear completely, permanently, or I give you to the FBI for human trafficking. They found evidence of your operation when they raided Zhang Wei's network. You're on their radar. You're bluffing, Marcus said, but his voice shook. Try me. Sirens wailed in the distance. Getting closer. Minwoo grabbed Arya's arm gently. We need to go. Police will be here in under 2 minutes. Arya knelt beside her mother. Can you walk? With help. Margaret's voice was weak but steady. Together, they made it to Eddie's van parked 3 rows over. As they pulled away from the pier, Arya looked back. Marcus Aldrich was crawling toward his car. Broken and beaten, the Olympus Syndicate was finished. She'd won. Finally. Completely. Won. But as she held her mother's hand in the back of the van, watching Minwoo check his weapon in the passenger seat, Eddie driving with one massive hand on the wheel, she realized something. She hadn't won alone. She'd learned to fight for something bigger than survival. She'd learned to fight for family. For partnership. For the people who saw her and stayed. Her mother squeezed her hand weakly. I thought you were dead, baby. For 6 years, I thought. I had to disappear, Arya whispered. After Dad, after everything, I had to make them think I was gone. I know. Margaret closed her eyes. But you're here now. That's what matters. 3 months of physical therapy, psychological recovery, learning to live with trauma, learning to trust again. But they'd have time for that now. They'd won. 3 months later. The Jade Lotus had been completely transformed. Gaudy red velvet and gold accents gone, replaced by clean lines of black leather and brushed steel. Softer lighting, sophisticated atmosphere. Curated mix of Korean R&B and American jazz, creating exclusivity without intimidation. The club felt different because the philosophy behind it was different. Fear, replaced by respect. Minwoo stood on the 2nd floor balcony, looking down at his reclaimed kingdom. Simple charcoal suit, no flash, no ostentation, hair cut shorter. Entire bearing changed, he still commanded respect. But it came from competence and earned authority rather than terror. The office door opened. Arya walked in. She wore a perfectly tailored pantsuit in deep burgundy that complemented her skin tone, fit her powerful frame like it had been designed specifically for her. Because it had. Natural hair styled in elegant locks falling past her shoulders. She moved with confident grace of someone who no longer had anything to hide. She handed Minwoo a glass of sparkling water. Russian Syndicate agreed to the new terms. No human trafficking, no hard drugs, cybersecurity and money laundering only, strict protocols to prevent civilian harm. Minwoo set down the glass, turned to face her fully, pulled her close, hands settling on her waist with familiar comfort. He looked at her not as an employee or even a partner in crime, but as his absolute equal, his queen, his teacher, his match in every way that mattered. He smiled. Technically, I still owe you $17,000 for that suit you ruined. Arya laughed, rich, genuine, beautiful. I think we're even. I saved your life multiple times. You gave me a home. Wrong. Minwoo shook his head with mock seriousness. I didn't save you. I just gave you a bigger arena to be yourself. Permission to stop hiding. Tears pricked at the corners of Arya's eyes. Not sad tears. The kind that came from being truly seen. Valued. Minwoo leaned in, kissed her. Slow, deep, full of promise. Not the kiss of boss and subordinate. The kiss of two people who'd found what they'd been searching for their entire lives. Absolute equality. Complete trust. Love forged in fire. When they broke apart, Arya spoke softly. I have something to show you. She led him downstairs to a section closed for renovation. Pushed open double doors. A state-of-the-art boxing gym. Heavy bags hanging from reinforced ceiling mounts. Full competition ring. Speed bags. Training dummies. Resistance equipment. One entire wall mirrored for shadow boxing and technique work. Minwoo looked around in stunned silence. This is for the community, Arya explained. Free training for kids from Koreatown and South LA. Kids who need discipline, purpose. A way to channel energy into something constructive. She paused. I was given a second chance at my passion. I want to share that gift. Create champions not just in boxing, but in life. An unexpected emotion surfaced in Minwoo's chest, something he couldn't quite name. This woman had transformed him completely, taken an arrogant crime lord and taught him humility. Strategy, the value of building something that lasted beyond fear. It's perfect, he whispered. You're perfect. I'm not perfect. Neither are you, Arya smiled. But together, we're balanced, strong enough to build something that matters. 6 months ago, she'd been a frightened woman spilling drinks, hiding from her past. He'd been a cold tyrant who thought power meant standing alone. Now they stood side by side in their kingdom. Not built on corpses and terror, but on respect, strategy, and the revolutionary idea that two people working as equals could accomplish what no individual could achieve alone. The waitress was gone forever. The fighter she'd buried had found the light. He'd shed his old reputation and become something more human and infinitely more powerful. They were no longer hiding, running, pretending. They were Minwoo and Arya, king and queen, teacher and student, equals. In the neon-lit heart of Koreatown, everyone spoke the name Min